Hey guys, this is Jen with JCT Rustic Homestead. I'm in the kitchen today again making ham loaf, and it is something that we can get from our grocery store. It's something that I grew up on and I love almost more than meatloaf, but we had a lot of pork in our freezer, so to use up that pork I just figured why not make my own ham loaf. And hopefully you can hear me over the dogs eating and running around. They just decided that now is the time to eat breakfast, even though it's noon. But I'm going to get started anyway. I already have some onions chopped, I have my eggs here, and I have a giant bowl and a lot of pork. I'm probably going to use about 3 to 4 pounds worth of pork. And I have pork steak. Sometimes you can use like a butt roast. Or like a shoulder roast is the same thing. Pork steaks are pretty much the same area of the hog as well. I was reading that the pork steaks come from the shoulders along with the shoulder roast, butt roast, and they tend to have a little more collagen, so they can be a little tougher and you want to cook them for a long period of time. But what I'm going to do with this, I don't think it'll really matter. I'm going to break up that collagen anyway. And then I have a ham steak underneath, which is part of the ham loaf. But with ham loaf, you use ham, but you also kind of want that filler meat in there. And then I have other things I'm going to throw in it as well. But this is why this is one of the weirdest things I've done with food. It's because I'm taking chunks of meat. These are my pork steaks, and then this is my ham steak. And I'm putting it in a food processor back here that you can't really see because my kitchen angles just don't work that way. And so I'm going to chop it up, and then I'm going to, into smaller chunks, and then I'm going to put it in the food processor and turn it like literally into mush. And you'll kind of see how that goes along, and then we'll mix some different things in it and eventually bake it. And it's just like a meatloaf. If you wanted to add corn or peas or carrots or something in there for vegetable substance within it, you can do that too. I've seen people do that with meatloaf. Otherwise, I just put this stuff in there, mix it all up, stick it in the oven. Excuse me, last time I was able to put half of it in the freezer for another night, and that worked really well too. So we'll get started. Okay, so this is my ham steak, and I started cutting it up because there was a bone in the center. I chucked it over here in my like compost junk pile. The dogs are like going, are you gonna feed me? But pork is actually not good for dogs, and just talk to your veterinarian about why that is. But anyway, this is my ham steak. It's probably about 1 inch thick, if it'll focus in there. If you do the knuckle test, that part of your knuckle is about 1 inch on your pinky. And ham is a like cured meat. This is my pork steaks, and they are sliced, but that'll be okay. I gotta cut the bones out of there, and that's a raw cut. So this is cured. I could technically eat it. This is uncooked, and technically you could still eat it, but I don't eat raw meat. That's just my weirdness. Okay, so because I'm handling meat, it's just been difficult to film and show you guys everything at the same time. But this is my food processor. It's just a Hamilton Beach something or other somebody actually gave me. And I'm just going to take my meat. This is the ham steak, by the way, and it's dripping everywhere. And I'm putting it into the food processor. The blades are super sharp, so please don't cut yourself. And I was using that chef knife kind of thing, or Santoku as it's technically called, but for the steaks I'll probably end up bringing a super sharp serrated knife out. It cuts through better instead of it. So I'm going to pulse this, or I guess I could turn it on 1, but let's see how that works. Or not. So you can kind of see how it's ground it up. It's almost like hamburger or ground pork, if you've ever seen that. I'm going to do it a little more because I want it like finer. I do want it like hamburger, so like it's that kind of consistency. You don't have to, but that's my personal preference. And that looks a little more like hamburger consistency to me. So I'm going to call it quits for that one. One-handed just ain't a working. I'm going to dump it in my bowl. And yes, I will fix that. So you can see how it mashed it up. And one thing I did the last time was I pulled out a lot of the collagen fat, like harder gristly fat pieces from the steak shoulder that I used, and it turned out a little dry. So I'm gonna see how the consistency turns out this time with the different this is literally a different pig than the last cut, so each time it'll be different, quite honestly. Every pig, if you get it from different farmers, it'll even taste different. At least that's been our experience. It's just how the pig is and if their feed ratios are different. But this is fairly, and I put all the fat in. That brings a lot of flavor and moisture to your meats. So don't be afraid of the fat. But I'm pretty happy with how this one went. So I'm going to turn off the camera with my meat hands and go on to the shoulders. Okay, so those are the bones that I cut out, and then these are about 2 steaks, and they were pretty good size, but I'm still gonna pulse them down or food chop them down and add them to my ham. So let's see if I can do this one-handed again. I need 2 hands. And you can kind of hear how much harder it is because just the way the fibers work with the meat. Instead of, the ham is like a cross fiber section, and the steaks were a little bit of a cross fiber, but also with the fiber, if you know muscle structure. But I'm gonna, oh, that's not too bad. And see how that mashes up a little more? This is the ham steak, so, and then that is the ham, oh, excuse me, that's the ham steak. This is the pork steak from the shoulder. So I'm actually going to stop there with that one. I'm going to dump it in with my ham. And you can kind of see next to each other. So the ham steak, or the pork shoulder steak is on the left and the ham steak's on the right. And I'm going to do same thing with the rest of the pork steaks. Okay, so this is my meat. This is the shoulder roast. And it's not going to focus. Let's see. Right there it goes. This is the shoulder meat, and you can see how it looks more like ground hamburger. And then the ham, getting in the light, is it's ground up, but it's not the same. It's just a little more dry, and that's why, even though it's ham loaf, that's why you add the shoulder roast, is because you need that moisture in there so you don't come out a lead brick. So I'm going to add some onions. This is about a good cup of onions. And I minced them pretty finely. And then the other thing, I do have this is bacon that I was thawing with everything else. And I was debating about putting some bacon in with it, just as that salty taste along with fat content. But I don't think I'm going to, because this did make probably a good 5 pounds. It made a bit more than I thought it would. But I did another shoulder roast a while ago, and I saved the juice and the fat from it. So I'm going to actually take out the fat from there and reuse it to add the moisture content back in, because sometimes that ham steak just gets a little too dry. So this nasty mass of stuff, and I didn't really season it very much, so I'm not changing the seasonings of it. I'm just adding some of the juices from a previous cooking. So let's see. Is there any more? Yeah, there's a little bit more. There's more than I thought. So that, and then I'm going to start putting in the other seasonings, but I need to wash my hand again. This is the day that you go, I should have gotten more soap at the store. But the good news is, with all the fat that you're handling, your hands are getting naturally moisturized. So it's a good day. Okay, so you're back in my cupboard, because that's about the only way I can fit you. But I've just about broken my camera because of it. Anyway, I put 3 eggs in here, and I forgot to say, you can find different recipes online, but I found one that seemed more of the flavorings that I was looking for, and then I tweaked it a little bit, of course, because the store ham loaf that my mom would get, it had pineapple in it. There was no question, there was pineapple in it. But the recipes that I found with pineapple didn't really sound that appealing to me. So I found a recipe that seemed appealing. I added the pineapple, and then I kind of went from there. I'm not gonna lie. I had no clue what I was doing, and it turned out okay. So luckily I had the foresight to write it all down, so I can follow it again this time, except with the addition of the extra fat from the ham loaf, or excuse me, the butt roast I did a while ago. Now, in the future, if I haven't done that, what I'll probably do is add the bacon for that salt and the fat content, because you know when you cook bacon down, it usually like half of it goes away in fat and grease, but that grease is actually fat, and if you just store that, put it in the freezer or the freezer, you can use it to help moisturize your other things like this. So I'm going to just I'll take never mind. Okay. So the pineapple was being difficult, but this is just a 20-ounce can of crushed pineapple, and I'm going to put the whole thing in. You could get tidbits if you wanted to, but I didn't want that big of a chunk of pineapple. I'm going to put about 2 cups of these are Italian-style breadcrumbs. If you just have regular breadcrumbs, that's fine. And I just eyeball it. This is, I don't know. I guess it's maybe not 2 cups. We'll see. Maybe that was part of the reason it was dry. That's really only about a cup. I already put my onion in there. I'm going to put some ketchup. And even if you don't like these particular ingredients, I would still suggest trying it, because I know some people don't like mustard, but for some reason ham and mustard go together. Just try it. So I am actually going to put a lot of ketchup in there. What I wrote down says 3/4 to a cup of ketchup. That's probably about 2/3. Okay, and then I'm going to put some mustard in there. 2, 3, 4-ish tablespoons. That was the mustard, I promise. And And then I'm going to put, I wrote a scant tablespoon of paprika. I don't really taste a lot of paprika in things, but I'm going to probably put a full tablespoon. This is just my teaspoon, don't be fooled. I'm not putting 3 in. So that's my paprika. It looks like I need to consider getting more paprika. Garlic powder, and you can put like minced garlic in there, but I'm just going to use the garlic powder. And I put a tablespoon of that, which that's probably about all that's left in this thing. So 1, 2, yeah. Don't worry, I have more garlic powder. And I've been kind of saving these because you never know when you're going to need a little container, or if I get herbs in the garden, I can dry them, and there we go. Throwing that in the pile of dishes, and I don't have a dishwasher. This is the dishwasher you see right here. Okay, salt and pepper. We're not huge salt people, and the ham is salt cured, so I don't put a ton of it in there, but I'm going to put probably about a teaspoon in, because salt does add some flavor. And I might even omit it if I put in the bacon. So there's salt. And pepper. And I should probably figure out a better way to do this, but this is what I'm dealing with, so there we go. Sounds good enough. And then the other thing I'm going to add is brown sugar. And it adds a sweetness. Once again, a lot of hams have like a brown sugar glaze on them, so it just makes sense. And I'm going to do actually probably a 1/4 cup. No, I'm going to do a little more. This is about a 1/2 cup. I wrote down 3 tablespoons, but I'm thinking I'm going to change that. I think a 1/2 cup looks better. And then I'm going to just go to town. Honestly, it's going to be easier if you use your hands. Just don't puke in it if you're kind of squeamish about this kind of stuff. But I just feel like I get a better mix if I use my hands. I guess if you have a big enough mixer, you could put it in that. But yeah. Oh, I guess I should have heated up the fat a little bit, because see, now it's kind of glumpy. But we'll see. And like the other reason I like using my hands is if I come across fibers like this, and I guess I should have gone through it before I started mixing everything. But this is a lot more, there's a lot more collagen in the fat here. So I'm going to just throw that away as I find it. And that's part of my reason why it got a little, see, there's another shred. Well, this one feels like it would cook down. Some of them you'll just be able to tell. If it's a hard fat, I would, and you know, it's like that gristly piece that you can't chew through. I'd just go ahead and chuck it. To me, I don't think it'll cook down much, but maybe somebody else has a different opinion. And you might come across some bigger pieces, and like, I'm just going to have to deal with it. This is, see how this just doesn't, it'll pull apart, but it's just a little more fibrous. So I'm just going to chuck that too. You know, if you don't like it and you have kids, send your kids in there. I'm sure they'll like plain and raw meat. It's not much different than raw cookie dough. There used to be a fear with pork products because of, I believe, a disease called trichinosis. Oh, that was the dog. That's what the dog thought about it. It was sneezing. There was a disease called trichinosis, and people worried about making sure that they're, see, this is another collagen type of fat, about their pork, and it was, I guess, not good for human consumption, and that trichinosis has since greatly diminished. My parents used to think that you had to completely cook your pork. But then we went to a restaurant and they asked us, how do you want it cooked? Rare, medium, or well done. And so we got on the subject and we learned that the trichinosis isn't really an issue in cooking anymore. So you can do the variable cooking of pork now. See, there's another one. I figured if the food processor didn't really get it as I was mashing it up, I'm not going to cook it in there. I don't want to come across it when I eat it. If it's something that feels like it's going to, and if you just not be palatable later, I'm just going to take it out. And if you know anything about, like, anatomy and muscle structure and, the fibers and collagen and fascia, and the only reason I know that is because of the horses, but you'll be able to tell what's going to be like a usable fat versus a enhancing flavor or moisture fat. And this made a ton. I might break this into 3 loaves. And how I break it into 3 loaves, I'll cook one tonight for supper, but then the rest of it I'll just put in a Ziploc bag. This probably made, it probably made about 5 pounds. Really wasn't expecting that. And I probably could have gone by with just 1 package of pork steaks, but that's okay. More food ready for other dinners. So I'm going to wash up. I'm going to get my pan ready to make a ham loaf. And we'll check back with you. Put it in some Ziploc bags. I did write what it was and the date on them. So that way when I'm looking in the freezer and go, when did I make that? Do I need to get it out of the freezer? I know we'll probably, I don't know. This will last us at least a week with leftovers and stuff. And you could make like sandwiches, or if you have like that leftover juice, maybe I could make a gravy or something for an open face sandwich or something. But so this is a ham loaf. Preheat the oven to 350 degrees. Bake for 60 to 90 minutes, depending on how thick it is and everything. The other thing you could do is if you are not big eaters, you could put it in a smaller pan, do a smaller loaf, just like chunk it. Turn this into 2 or 3 different ones and cook them that way. Or sometimes we'll do individual ham loaves, so they'll be like portion sized out instead of like a whole ham loaf. Especially if you're single, or you don't need that much, or have the recipe, only do half as much for everything, and you won't have this massive amount of meat to worry about. I know I'm going to go through it, and if I do it all today, then I don't have to do it down the road again. So I might as well do one and done. So I'm going to stick this in the refrigerator for now, and then for dinner, I'll put it once again at 350 for 60 to 90 minutes, and put the rest of this in the freezer. I do tend to squish them out flat, so that way they thaw a little easier for us. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know how the recipe turns out for you. I'll put a link to the blog and write the recipe out there. For those that are interested, the blog is jctrustichomestead.com, or you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/jctrustichomestead, and we are also on Etsy now, so check out our products if you're interested. Please like, comment, subscribe if you're interested, and we appreciate you coming out to the farm.